So there are many of these aspects to it. But then there are some mantras also that they are called prasiddha mantras.
Prasiddha mantra.
Yes, and these are mantras that carry a special blessing from some of the main rishis or sages or saints. How do those karmas, it's a very subtle topic for people.
Correct.
How does karma work? It's very strange.
Yeah.
But because karma is basically those latent impressions, it is a tendency. So the rishis, the gurus, they have this knowledge and they say, okay, right now, what is required or what is best, or how can we use the resources already available, what nature provides.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have a fantastic guest. This is the second time he's coming on the podcast, Swami Purnachaitanya, also known as the Dutch monk. Today we're going to be talking about something that I find fascinating. I don't have too much knowledge about it. We're going to be talking about the power of mantras, understanding sound, understanding how you can quieten your mind and achieve amazing things in your life just with the power of mantras. So join me in welcoming the Dutch monk on our podcast. Hello, hello, hello.
So nice to be back, Ashdin. And this time live in the studio.
Yes, the last time was all post-COVID. You just launched your new book.
Yes, correct. Online.
And so I'm so happy that we are here. Also, I don't know if everybody knows this, but it's because of you that I started growing my hair and growing a beard. So I think that's what you're more famous for right now.
Yes, what to do.
I remember it was a funny conversation that happened on Instagram as well between us about this.
But at least, something to tickle people's curiosity.
And the funny thing was that we didn't speak about hair or anything in that last podcast.
Nothing.
It was just
No, and you grew your beard beyond much what I have ever tried or even dared.
All the way up to my chest. So Swamiji, mantras. How did you get into mantras, and why did mantra become such an important aspect of what you do and preach?
Well, Ashdin, to be very honest, my first introduction to mantras was actually when I was very young. And it wasn't very conscious, but I remember that my parents, I think my father had a small audio cassette tape, which, God knows where he got it from, but it had some Vedic mantras chanted by someone from maybe Germany or somewhere. And who knows, because those days, we didn't have all the online media, and who knows where he got it from. It was not even an official, it was like a personally recorded something. But then once in a while it used to play at home, and when I found it very interesting. So I used to sometimes sit and listen to that, and I didn't know what it meant, but it felt very nice and a little bit familiar also in some way. And then many years later, when I came to India to, after, I did various martial arts, and then I wanted to go more into this, the Eastern traditions, and also that aspect of how to manage your mind, how to master your mind. And I found that in the martial arts, even though that is a very important aspect, they don't go into it too much. At least, nowadays how it's taught, it's more like an exercise, like a sport. So it's more about the moves, it's about the technique, about the fighting style, but the mental aspect, the consciousness aspect is very limited.
Yes.
So that is how I got into breathing techniques, meditation, yoga, to which I was introduced by my master, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. When he came to Amsterdam for a public talk. I was 16 that time. So I started exploring that more. And then after finishing my high school, I took a gap year because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to study, and I had to pay for everything myself. So I thought, okay, before I go to university and spend so much time, energy, money, I want to be really certain that what I'm going to do is something I'm going to enjoy doing. Because otherwise, who's going to do it? I just finished my final exams of high school. I had that moksha feeling, liberation.
Complete
and
liberation,
I didn't want to get into bondage right away. So for 6 months I worked. I earned some money. And then I went to India. I thought, let me travel around. First, my option was Europe. But then I thought, I want to go and see the place where all this knowledge is coming from. And I, that time, still had a grandfather who was living in Delhi. That's my little bit of Indian roots. So I thought I can visit him as well, because I'd only seen him once in my life. But I wanted to see India. And I thought, okay, I'll start in Bangalore, because the Art of Living has its international headquarters there, big ashram. So I thought I can do an advanced meditation retreat. And then from there, work my way up to the north, where my grandfather is. So I can visit, maybe Goa. And I had found some nice spots in my lonely planet.
Lovely.
That I thought I want to visit that. When I came to Bangalore, one of the things that really, caught me by surprise or made me fall in love, I would say, with this Vedic knowledge and this tradition even more, was that on every Monday there we have a puja, a Rudra Puja, that is performed in the morning. Takes about 1.5 hours, where some of the pandits from our Veda Pathshala there, we have a Gurukul, a school where the boys come and learn the Vedic mantras, and then when Gurudev is there, he will preside over the puja. Otherwise, usually it's one of our Swamijis or someone. So Monday morning, they said there is this ritual, it's nice, you can attend. So I went there, we have a beautiful meditation hall, sat down, and then it started, and everybody was sitting quietly, and I saw many people had their eyes closed, like they're going to meditate. And then the pandits, they started, and it's like it echoes, it reverberates these sounds, the Vedic mantras, and very nicely, precisely, and it was beautiful. And I didn't know Sanskrit yet at that time, but it sounded magical. And then it's a ritual, so it's not just the chanting. So they're performing all the actions in a very slick manner, like they were properly trained, and they were doing it very sincerely. So then all the hand movements, some of the mudras, it looked like proper, like Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and looking at it, and I was like, wow, because where do you get to see these kind of things? At least not in Europe. So I saw that it's this living tradition, thousands of years old. And then I was listening to it. I was mesmerized by it. And at some point I realized when I looked around that almost everybody was sitting with their eyes closed, maybe even their head drooping a little, like they were in meditation. And this was not just Indian people. There were some guys from Russia, I think someone from Mongolia, different places. And then I thought, okay, maybe let me also try, because it was new for me. So I closed my eyes and I was just listening to the chanting. And suddenly they started some bhajan, some kirtan. At the end they sing a few devotional songs. And I realized that for 30 minutes I had been gone. And I didn't know where I went. But I felt very peaceful. But it was really like you come out of a very deep meditation. And then I was like, oh, wow. This is something. And then I was looking forward to the next Monday. So I stayed a few more weeks. And then I realized that, this is really something unique, because it's not like I've not listened to music with my eyes closed before. But I mean, for people who want to try this, you can sit with your eyes closed and you can listen to Michael Jackson or Justin Bieber or Honey Singh or anything, Linkin Park. But you sit with your eyes closed, listen to that. You don't go into meditation. But then I've seen over the years also that people come from literally everywhere in the world. They may not even understand English, forget about Sanskrit. But when they listen to these Vedic mantras, their mind goes into deep meditation. So there is something unique about these sounds when it's chanted in the proper way. And later when I started learning more about it, when I had that opportunity, one of the first things I learned, which I felt, this is spot on, is the definition of the word mantra. Because in the scriptures it's defined as mananat trayate iti mantra, which means those sounds that by which repeating them can save you from the mind, can make the mind settle down, can allow you to go beyond the mind, to connect with or to experience something that is even more subtle. And that is why it's also not that every word or every sound can be a mantra. I mean, actually, in one way, if you look at it, every sound is a mantra. But then this effect, it's like, certain sounds, when chanted in the right way, have this effect that it can really help you to quieten the mind. And that can give you more focus. It can give you deep relaxation. It's a great preparation for meditation. It can help you sleep better. So many practical benefits. But it's like, this science of sound, the mathematics of sound, And I've been learning more about it over the years. I've had the good fortune to learn to chant many of these Vedic mantras. And I've seen, I would say miraculous effects of these mantras, where it's not really a miracle. I mean, it's very scientific. But for us, when you've not been exposed to this kind of things, or if you don't have the full understanding, it looks like a miracle. That how can something like this have such a profound effect?
And when you're thinking about a mantra, are you looking at it from a pronunciation point of view? Are you looking at it from a tonality point of view? What is the way in which the aspects of the mantra? Because I've seen mantras being chanted in different accents.
Yes.
Right? At different paces. Like everyone's doing their own thing. What would be are there parameters that you would use to evaluate the mantra or at least focus on it?
Yes, and it differs a little bit per mantra also. Like, for example, if we look at the Vedic mantras, from the Vedas, so there is something called the chandas, which is the rhythm, and also the swara, which is the intonation. And then you have the ucharana, which is the pronunciation. So all of these are very important, because if you see, when we talk about sound, when you talk about a vibration, so then if the intonation changes or if the pronunciation changes, the sound is also different.
Correct.
It makes a lot of sense. And here, it's not just the meaning, it's really the sound. Because if we look at Sanskrit also, the classical Sanskrit that many people may be familiar with to some extent, let's say the Sanskrit of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Puranas, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of all of these, this is what we call the classical Sanskrit. But then the language of the Vedas is much older. So if you have the actual Vedas, the Vedic texts, there the grammar is also different. The meaning of the word may be different, in the sense that one word can have 40, 50 different meanings,
Correct.
depending on the context. While in later times, those meanings have become much more limited. And that's also where actually quite a bit of the distortion happens.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, after some time when people forgot that, then they started translating it differently, and the meaning became something altogether different. But the oldest Vedic language was also referred to as chandas. It was the rhythm. It was more the sound. And there you see that the sound of the word has the meaning of it in it. So the sound for tree, the word for tree has the vibration of tree in it. The sound for water, the word for water, that sound has the vibration of water in it. So the sound is the thing. And it's very interesting, because if you look at quantum physics now, if you go deep enough, you say everything is made up of energy that resonates, that vibrates. It's vibration. And so for the Vedic mantras especially, this is very important, that the intonation is proper, the chandas, the rhythm, the pronunciation. For some of the other mantras, that may not be that specific, in the sense that when we talk about the swara, like the intonation, for example, there is a mantra, I'll chant a little bit of it, where you say, Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam. So it goes up and down. So that's different than if you just say Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam. So then it's in the same. So that intonation, that is important. But if you have a mantra, say Om Namah Shivaya.
Right.
So there is no fixed intonation. So you have more freedom, you can say. The mantra is less restricted. But then there, of course, again, the pronunciation does matter. Because I've seen, not just in the West, but even here, sometimes people very enthusiastically chant. For example, you say, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. They say, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So Krishna or Krishna, if that A is long, then that's no longer Krishna. Then it refers to Draupadi, actually. That's the name of Draupadi.
Correct.
So Rama and Rama is different. The same way if you say Ananda, it means bliss.
Right.
Ananda means the lack of joy, of happiness. It's the total opposite. You say Shastra, it means a weapon. You say Shastra, it's a scripture. So like that, it definitely makes a difference, because even if the intention is good, you can say, okay, with devotion you can sing. Yes, that devotion is a treasure. It's a wealth. It's your wealth. But for the mantra to have a specific effect, okay, what is the energy that you are generating or that you're enhancing or invoking? So that is where it matters. And that way, if you go deeper into it, it is a proper science.
It is a science, and there are aspects to it, which is why, when you listen to some music that has mantras inside, like there are so many tracks on Spotify you'll find which are mantras plus a music and to different beats. Has the essence of the mantra been lost? Is it just fun at that point of time? What would
I'm sure.
How would you look at it?
In many cases, the intention is, of course, good. People, they feel nice.
Of course.
And definitely, to some extent, it will have usually I would say has a positive effect. But the real power of the mantra, yes, a large part of it may be lost because, again, the proper sound will have that effect. and the more you're able to check all your boxes, that much more effective the mantra will be. And that is why actually for many mantras also, to really get the effect of that specific mantra that you would want to get, you may need to do some preparation, where it is either to prepare yourself or to prepare the mantra. There is something called, different processes to enliven a mantra. So if you have an acharya or a guru who gives you a mantra and who is an expert, so a guru is one who's an expert. So otherwise you have a mantra shastra expert, a mantrika. So they can give you a mantra and they can see, okay, is this compatible with you? Because certain mantras for you may work very effortlessly, while for another person, it may take more time for that mantra to give them a result. So we have to look a little bit at the Jyotish astrology also and all of these things, your karmic baggage. But also if someone has the mantra siddhi, which means that person has imbibed that mantra, the mantra is alive in them, in their consciousness. They have been able to chant it in such a manner that it's become a part of them. So then if they give you that mantra, it's already alive.
Right.
It's like they have already charged it for you. Someone gives you a phone, like gives you a SIM card, but if they've already put some balance on it, then you can already use it. So if someone's candle is lit, they can light your candle. And if my candle is lit, and me by lighting your candle, the light of my candle does not become any less. But if mine is not lit, you can keep rubbing those two candles together and it will not burn.
Correct.
So there are many of these aspects to it. But then there are some mantras also that they are called prasiddha mantras.
Prasiddha mantra.
Yes. And these are mantras that carry a special blessing from some of the main rishis or sages or saints, where through their intense sadhanas, their intention behind it, their blessing behind the mantra, that mantra will work for everybody. So even without any initiation, without any special preparation, the mantra will give good results and it will not be able to do any harm also, even if you do it wrong or.
Can you give us a few examples of the
So one of the most well-known ones probably for people is Om Namah Shivaya or Namah Shivaya. If you say Panchakshari, then it's those 5. So this is a mantra that has many benefits, and that is why anybody can chant it. And that is why if as long as the pronunciation is more or less okay, you can even chant it in any tune. Of course, if you sing it loudly, it is less meditative than chanting it in a more traditional manner. But it's fine. You can sing it as bhajan, as kirtan. You can do mantra japa on it, and these mantras therefore have great results. So it's also then I think good to know for people that we tend to, or rather our mind tends to want to make things very complicated, because then we think it works better or it's more special. But just like with it comes to diet or nutrition, like some of the most you can say healthy things for us are the simplest. Like if you drink enough water, that's great, and if you don't, it can be a problem. So with mantras also, you don't need to have 10 or 100 or 1,000 different mantras. There are hundreds of thousands of mantras, but if you take one mantra that is right for you, that can do the job of enlightening your consciousness. That can be the spark that gives you the realization, or that can carry you forward. So we also don't have to chant 100 different mantras every day. If you get 1 or 2 which are the right ones, you do that will support you. And a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, anybody can chant. So if you're saying, okay, right now I may not have access to someone who can guide me, or even if they give me a mantra that works for me, I don't have the time to do a lot of sadhanas or things, or I'm not interested. But then at least this much if you take up, and at least you chant it for some time every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, at least 1 or 2 japa malas, and one mala is 108 times. So then you will see that can already start giving a lot of benefits for your mind also.
And these, and I want to come back to japa malas in a bit. So these mantras, like you said, you don't need to know like 35 of them. You don't need to know 100 of them. It's not a competition for this. But would you think of a mantra as a tool? Like, would you have like a toolkit saying that, oh, you know what, I need to sleep better, so I should use this mantra. Oh, you know what, I have an exam tomorrow, I need to prepare for this, so I should use this mantra. Is that the way that you should think about it, or?
You can. So like I said, there is one general aspect of mantras where it can help you to calm the mind, to go beyond the mind. But then there are so many mantras, and that must be for a reason. And it's because, yes, each has its own unique effect as well. And that is that whole science of mantras, the mantra shastra, where you say, okay, the moment you start understanding, like many know, Ganesha is the remover of obstacles.
Right.
You know, so if you keep getting stuck, you keep getting hurdles, whether it is at work or in your relationships or in life in general, that you say, I need to get rid of some of these obstacles. Then you can say, okay, let me do a Ganesha mantra, because that will help you to overcome or to remove those obstacles or to prevent them. Now then, of course, you can say, okay, but there are so many Ganesha mantras, each has its own unique quality, you know. So there, it's of course good if you have some guidance where someone can suggest, okay, do this or do that. But otherwise, even a simple mantra like Om Ganeshaya Namaha, no? This is something that anybody can chant, you know. And then again, you do it for some time every day. And I have my personal experiences where at some point I was facing some difficulties, which somehow it wasn't going, you know. It was, you're struggling to get through that muck.
Right.
And then
You
at
just feel
some point,
stuck.
and I have the good fortune that I have been introduced to some people who really have a lot of knowledge of this, and that I also trust in that regard. So then at some point I was talking to one of my friends who has been studying a lot of Jyotisha in a very proper tradition. And so then based on the situations and the challenge I was having, he suggested one mantra. He said, okay, you do this, do 3 malas every day and do that for at least 40 days. And I thought, okay, I've tried so many other
It's like
things.
a prescription.
Yeah, exactly. So that way, if you see this science of mantras, it's like the science of medicine on the level of karma. It's very interesting. So, okay, these are the specific karmic blockages that you're having in your life right now. So do this and you will start seeing a difference. I thought, okay, I've tried so many things. Me sitting for 10, 15 minutes for a few days is not going to hurt me in any way. So let me just try. And I tell you, the second day itself, events started happening that led me to resolve this problem that I had been facing for so long. So it may be nice also for people to understand that the way it works, you know, like even from a Jyotish perspective, if they suggest some remedy, okay, do some puja or do some japa. Mantra is one of the best remedies. It's sattvic. It's something you can do yourself if it's not complicated. But then when you do the mantra, for example, you have a health condition. I've seen this sometimes with people. Someone was having a very serious health condition and he had been to so many doctors, you know, different hospitals, even abroad, and they were not able to help him because they were not able to diagnose what was really wrong. So they gave him some different medicines. They tried some different treatments to see if something would help, but it didn't, you know. And then what happened? Finally, he saw, one of my friends who was a very good Jyotishi, and he suggested one mantra. He said, you do this mantra, it'll help you. Now, that person was also like, I've tried everything, you know, okay, let me try this also. But he didn't really believe in all this stuff. He was like, okay, anyway, for the sake of it. Now, the interesting thing is that after 1 or 2 months, when that person asked him that, like, how are you now? Did it help? Or he said, oh yeah, no, I'm really good. He said, oh, so what happened? He said, no, so, my problem got resolved or this or that. He said, oh, so the mantra worked. No, mantra didn't work. I said, no, then what happened? He said, no, that mantra, okay, he was doing for some time. But he said, no, then what happened is suddenly a friend of his said, I know one doctor. He is very good. Why don't you see him? Then he went to see that person. Then that person diagnosed him. He said, oh, I know exactly what your problem is. It's this and this and this. And he gave him and it was not even a very serious thing. But when he knew exactly how to address it, within few weeks, the person was fine. And he had been suffering for so long. Now, so he said, no, but the mantra didn't work. No, I met the right doctor. But what people don't realize is that why till now you didn't meet the right doctor was because of that karmic thing. There was some karma you had to go through that was stopping you from coming in front of this right person. Or that was stopping this doctor from seeing that thing. So the moment he started the mantra, something shifted in the subtle level. And then suddenly there was a guy who said, oh, but I know what your problem is. Or let me introduce you to this guy. So it doesn't mean that mantra necessarily will fix your health. It may make sure that you get the right medicine or you meet the right doctor. And that is how the mantra can help you, that suddenly you may meet the person who can help you out of that trouble. Or suddenly you may meet a person that can be a proper business partner for you. So it's fascinating because it's like you you get a peek behind the curtain that on a subtle level, there are so many things going on. It's a play and display of energy. And then when you're able to tweak that a little, it can save you a lot of unnecessary trouble. Yeah.
No, and it's fascinating how these things work, right? Like there are no mistakes. Right? It all happens at that right moment. So how would you go about finding a mantrika or, like finding somebody who can guide you on mantras?
I mean, that's a bit, can be a bit tricky, of course. But like I said, see, a good Jyotishi, good Vedic astrologer, either himself will have at least a decent knowledge of Mantra Shastra, or he would usually know people who do. So that way also I don't want to give people one place now that, okay, everybody you go there, because that again may not be practical for people. But like I said, again, we don't have to make it very complicated because, of course, these are very specific things. But then anyway, that requires someone to look at your chart in a proper way because that also is a map of your karmas.
Correct.
So it has to match. You have to see, okay, what is compatible? Like with diet or with medication. Like I have a condition for my liver and you have the same condition. Now you may be taking a certain medicine that works really well for that. I cannot take it because it would work well for me also, except that I also have diabetes maybe. And this medicine has a side effect that it may aggravate diabetes. So like that, with like a good doctor, you have to see, okay, it has these effects, but if there are some side effects, we don't want it to create unnecessary problems. But even that the general aspect of mantra that we spoke about, what actually happens is when you chant every day, at least for some time, apart from that specific benefits, it's also like you're creating a habit for your consciousness, because if you see our mind, our consciousness, in a way is also like energy that is vibrating, you say. Like sometimes you say, like my energy is going up and down. When your energy is low, when you feel low, what is feeling low? Your energy. And when your energy is low, you're resonating at a lower frequency, then you find that you have many more thoughts, unnecessary thoughts, more confusion. You start doubting things more easily. You worry more. Small things can irritate you or throw you off balance or make you angry or sad. Or while when your energy is high or when that frequency is higher, then you find that you have less thoughts. You have more clarity of mind. You're more positive. You're more enthusiastic. You're much more focused. You're more productive. We've all had this thing. If you have a good night's sleep, you're well rested. Your to-do list is going much faster. And if you're not, if you're already feeling low or fried or tired, that same thing may take you 2-3 days. And sometimes you're just sitting and thinking, oh God, I still have to do this and that. And you're not even getting to it. But if you think about it, any thought that comes up, at least inside your head, is also a sound. So that's why if you see when you're worried, what is actually happening is you're having the same thought again and again coming up, whether you like it or not. But then it's pulling your energy down. It's a negative, it's an energy drainer, you can say. And some people have gotten into this habit of worrying a lot about certain things or, getting upset by certain things. We all have our triggers, a certain situation. So this conditioning in our consciousness, that you feel uneasy with certain people or you feel afraid in a certain situation or you get really upset or angry, these are like habits of our mind. It got habituated to that if someone says this
without thinking,
I lose it.
Oh yeah.
Or if that happens, I feel uneasy. But then how do you change that? How do you change the quality of your thoughts? So one, yes, you can increase your energy level and there are different ways. You can do breathing techniques, meditation, take care of your diet, go exercise, maybe so many things, chant mantras. But for the mantra, what happens is that we are using that same principle of again and again having the same thought or sound, but then we take a very positive vibration. So that's why when you repeat the mantra, it's like the opposite of worry. So you repeat it, but it pulls your energy up. And then what happens is when you do that regularly, that becomes a new habit in your consciousness. So you get a very positive habit. So that in the same situation, suddenly you find you don't get triggered. Or in a very stressful situation, it doesn't really affect you. It becomes like it protects your consciousness. And the beauty is that we live our life, we make our choices based on the thoughts that we have. So if you ask somebody, okay, why did you choose to become an engineer or a doctor or a YouTuber or a model or a farmer, whatever? There is something in you that made you feel, okay, this is what I want to do, or let me do this. Like you have children that have grown up in the same family, the same education, maybe even twins, yet they make different choices. They feel, okay, I would like to do this. I don't feel like doing that. I feel like hanging out with this person, or I feel attracted to that person. I don't feel like that. So I feel means the thought came up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes you had options. You said, okay, I can do this and this and this, but I like this. Okay, so you say you have free will because you can make a choice. But then what people many times don't realize, but okay, you made a choice, but your choices were limited.
Mm-hmm.
You can only choose from what you know. If you know that there are 5 options, you can choose one of them.
Correct.
There may be 50 options, but if you don't know, you cannot choose it. So in our life, the choices we make, the places where we reach, whether it is a good position in society, whether it is good health or terrible health or whatever it may be, is because of our choices. And our choices are based on our thoughts. Now, you cannot choose which thoughts you have. Thoughts come up on their own. Some may bother you, some may inspire you, but either way, they come. And the more aware you become, you say, okay, I can choose to act on it or not. But you cannot choose to think something differently until it comes. And mantra works on that subtle level where it changes the quality of your thoughts. So the type of thoughts that come, the quality of it, the frequency, changes because of the mantra. And that is why mantra is one of the main remedies also prescribed in Jyotisha, in astrology, for your karmic challenges, you can say. Because what are those, how do those karmas, it's a very subtle topic for people. How does karma work? It's very strange.
Yeah.
But because karma is basically those latent impressions, it is a tendency. So how do you say that, okay, you're going to suffer in your life because of addiction or because of relationship or because of whatever? Because your choices put you in a situation like that.
Right.
It's like it's a chain reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why mantra is one of the ways to cut certain karmas, to free you from that, or to at least make it less or remedy it. Because on the subtle level, you're burning those seeds or you're changing those habits, you're weakening them or you're altering them, so that when the thought comes, you don't end up in the situation. Because you may be the most brilliant guy, super intelligent. I mean, I'm sure you are. So you have excellent intuition, you're so sharp. So if I give you 10 options, you will always choose the best one. But if all your 10 options are different types of poison, you can choose the best one, but you're still drinking poison. And if you're a complete idiot, of course you are not, but you may have someone who is really not the brightest, and he has this special blessing that out of 10 options, he will always pick the worst. Some people have this special blessing. So then if you give him 10 options, he will always choose the worst. But if your 10 options are 10 different types of Ferrari, even if he picks the worst, he will still have a Ferrari, If there are 10 types of delicious pastry, even if you pick the worst, you will still get very nice pastry. So if you change the quality of your thoughts, the kind of thoughts that you have, the kind of inclinations that you have, that you say, okay, I feel like doing this, or I feel like hanging out with that person, or I feel like doing something like that, or going to such and such a place. If those thoughts are better, that means your life will be much better. So this is like, you can say, next level habit building, where you're building habits on the level of not just the subconscious, but even the superconscious, where you're saying, how can my consciousness start working for me in a way that on this plane of existence, in my limited reality where I walk around in this world and do my things, I am more comfortable, I am more at ease, I'm able to do something useful or contribute something beautiful. So the more you start seeing that, a whole new dimension opens up And you're like, but why have we been ignoring this?
It's like maybe the Ganesha mantra changed the way that you were thinking about problem solution.
Exactly.
Right? It was not necessarily that it removed obstacles, but it allowed you to see beyond the obstacles to probably a solution. So that is the subtle way in which what I've understood, probably the mantra is helping and working.
Exactly. I mean, like if you see nowadays, there's more awareness about trauma, for example, no? Like it could be childhood trauma, generational trauma, and people are realizing that many health conditions, even the mental, on a mental level, are many times actually triggered by early life traumas, But then the beauty is, if you see many of the methodologies that are coming up now that have proven very effective to address or to heal those traumas are because you become aware of it. So the moment you start seeing that, okay, what is happening in my physiology, for example, what is happening in my mind? How is a experience from the past that maybe I was not paying attention to or even didn't want to pay attention to, coloring my current choices or my current experiences, and the moment you become aware of that knowledge, then you're already half out of it. And if you put some attention there, then you can fully remove it. So the beauty is that mantra can in that way help you to, I will not even say create the situations, but to end up in the situations that are conducive to that you say, okay, if you want to earn more money, it's about finding the right job or meeting the right person or coming across the right opportunity. You buy Bitcoin at the right time, now you could have been rich.
Correct.
You buy it at the wrong time, the same Bitcoin can give you great losses, So again, it's about the right knowledge, the right timing, and all of these aspects are connected.
Shall we do a masterclass in how do we start this practice of mantras? So if you can take us through how to, do japa, how to choose a japa mala, like what is the process in which we can start? Maybe with even a mantra that everyone can use. So because I know people would be listening to this podcast saying, how can I start now?
Yes.
That's the kind of people that we have on our podcast. So how would we start this? How can you give us a little class on this?
So I would like to keep it simple because, again, the more complicated you make it, it's more difficult for people to get started, and it's not always required also, So like I said, there may be very elaborate mantra sadhanas that require so many preparations that are not suitable for most people, so no point in even going into that.
Right.
Just like the average guy doesn't need to go through a whole treatment in the hospital. He may have enough by just having the right diet at home. So as a mantra that anybody can take up, I would say that a prasiddha mantra would be ideal because, like I said, it doesn't require any initiation. It'll give you good results, It won't create any problem even if you do it totally wrong. So let us take Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay.
There are many occasions, whether it is Mahashivaratri or Shravan Mas or times when people may especially want to do it. But for me, it's a daily practice. I've made it a daily habit to do this. It's a small mantra, so even doing it 108 times may take you just 5 minutes maximum, But then I would say it's quality time over quantity. Because when you do the mantra sincerely, when your mind is fully there, your consciousness is fully there, anyway your breath and body are involved in chanting the mantra, then it's much more effective than you just playing it in the background when you're doing the dishes or, just you're chanting it on autopilot, but actually you're planning your day. So I would say that sitting with that, a sense of reverence or attention, joyful awareness. And then it's good to sit and do the mantra, especially mantras that start with Om, we should do it sitting, not walking around or standing. So you can sit if you have a place at home where you won't be disturbed, which has a nice atmosphere. Maybe you have your own little meditation corner or a place where sometimes you do some yoga or some quiet reading, or you have a puja place, a small mandir or something. These places are ideal. I wouldn't say do it sitting on your bed because sleep is a different flavor of energy.
Right.
So sit somewhere nice.
In the bedroom is fine?
Yeah, if you have a corner like that in the bedroom, it's okay. As long as you're not sitting on your bed.
Fair.
Because all night you're sleeping there, so you may go off to sleep in your japa also.
Correct.
Or feel like lying down. And then it's nice to sit, because when the spine is erect, you're more aware, you're more alert. And then personally also, I would always say it's nice to be clean. So if you have a morning routine, which I hope it's a good habit to take a shower or to take a bath, do that first. Brush your teeth, take a bath, wear some clean clothes, also a very good habit. And then you sit peacefully. And that can be before or after your yoga or meditation or whatever you want to do. And then just sit, and for some time you can chant the mantra. You can do it mentally also, but when you do it out loud, it doesn't have to be super loud. But then because you hear it also, it has a nice effect on the surroundings as well. So where you're not disturbing anyone, I would say that is very nice. Sit for some time and then chant the mantra. So if you do Om Namah Shivaya, we can chant it like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Like that, if you do, it will just take you a few minutes to do one mala. And like I said, it's nice to do it at least 108 times. Because if you want, you can count it. Of course, you can also say, I'll just sit for a few minutes. But this number, there's a reason why they recommend it. If you see the japa malas, the necklace that they use to count with the beads. I'll not say rosary because that has a different connotation, but the idea is the same. The rosary also in the Christian tradition. I don't know if the number, it differs, but they also use it to count. So you say, okay, whatever, you have to do so many Hail Marys or this or that. Correct. So somewhere you have to count. Now, the japa mala has usually 108 beads plus one. That ninth one is, they call it a Meru or the Sakshi. That one we don't touch. That is just to know that you've completed your round.
Right.
Because it's nice. You can close your eyes and then using the mala, when you reach that extra one, okay, I've been all the way around. And then there's a few things. I made some reels about it also once on Instagram with some more details. But for example, that we don't use the index finger ideally when counting. And if people want, they can check it out. But what type of mala? Again, there are different types. If you have a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, then Rudraksha is always nice because the Rudraksha bead is very dear to Lord Shiva. But even if you have something else like a Spatika mala, the crystal, or if people have like a Krishna mantra or a Vishnu mantra, then the Tulsi mala can be very nice. So again, as a general thing, I wouldn't go too much into it now. For specific sadhanas that may have an added benefit.
Okay.
Rudraksha is anyway always very good. It's very nice. Just keep it clean. So the mala that we use for the japa, we don't normally wear it during the day.
Okay.
So you just...
Oh, so that's a separate mala?
Separate, yes. So the one that we use for the japa, you just keep it in a box or something that it doesn't become dusty or dirty. You just take it out for the practice and then again you put it back.
Okay.
That is if you want to do it really properly. And then, this number 108 from the Vedic cosmology signifies completion. And they explain it in different ways. For example, if you look from the Jyotish perspective, you have 9 heavenly bodies, the Navagraha, that move through 12 constellations, the zodiac signs, so the Rashis. So then if you say 9 times 12 gives you 108 combinations, permutations. So then if you do one mantra for each, you're sorted. You've covered all your bases.
And you don't have to focus on each of those while doing
No. Nothing like that. That all goes to the right place.
Okay. Let's get sorted out.
Yes. So you just do your down payment and then it will be distributed. But then, this number is very interesting because in creation also, like they got it from somewhere. And in creation, you find it in different places. So like one example I like to give usually just to make people a little curious is that, for example, the distance from the sun to the moon is approximately 108 times the diameter of the moon. The distance from the earth to the sun is about 108 times the diameter of the sun. The diameter of the sun is approximately 108 times the diameter of the earth. So there's all these connections that you start seeing that how this creation works or how it's held together. There's a certain mathematics behind it that is making all of this work. So you can do one japa mala, or sometimes if you feel enthusiastic, you can say, okay, I will do 3, or you say, I'll do it in morning and in the evening. But at least once, I would say, at least once a day, or you can say if you want to do morning, evening, then once in the morning, once in the evening. It's really nice because then what happens, like I said, it starts conditioning your consciousness in a way that or purifying it. We can also say that sounds even nicer maybe, where the quality of your thoughts improve. You'll find that you'll have less negative thoughts. So-called negative situations around you start influencing you less. And especially this mantra, the Om Namah Shivaya mantra, has also many specific benefits where it can help you also to improve the quality of time. So from the Jyotish perspective, it is one of the best remedies for various situations, because they say Lord Shiva sits on all the planets, all the grahas. So instead of going to that specific planet, if you go to him, he can also help you fix that. You know? In the same way, from an Ayurveda perspective also, this is a great mantra because it helps to balance the 5 elements of which this body is made up. So this is a lovely mantra that people could experiment with if they wish to, that you say, okay, let me do it at least for 40 days or 48 days. No? They call that one mandala.
Right.
And it's interesting because they say in the scriptures that if you do something for one mandala, it becomes a habit.
So, one mandala is how
It's
long?
48 days.
48 days.
Yeah. Sometimes they say 40 also, but let's
What's the
be safe.
symbolism of a mandala?
So mandala, they say if you do anything for one mandala, means every day you do it, it becomes a habit. So that much time it takes to get into your system.
But it's not linked to the moon, not linked to anything.
Yes,
like
there
that.
are many things
There are
behind it.
okay.
Yes. And then if you do it for 3 mandalas, they say it continuously, it becomes a second nature.
Okay.
But yeah, so all these things, they look at it from it comes from the Jyotish perspective, where you said we look at the moon or some other planets, because that also gives us an insight. It's like the rhythms in nature that are already present. Like we talk about circadian rhythms nowadays. People are more aware of, or at least they're becoming aware that it does make a difference if you eat at the right time or if you sleep at the right time. It's not just about the consistency. The timing does matter. Like you can be very consistent sleeping at 2 a.m. every day and waking up at 10 a.m. But if instead you sleep by 9 and wake up at 5, the quality of your sleep is much better. So there are rhythms in nature, biorhythms, that if you eat at a certain time, the right time, if you sleep at the right time, basically what you're doing is you're again going back to living in sync with nature, which how we were created. But then when TV and all these things came and now social media, that's all gone for a toss.
Completely.
Uber Eats, you can give you food at any time of the day. You don't need to wait for the sun to have some light to read something because we have electricity, So, and people are awake on the other side of the world. So if you want to keep gaming till late in the night, there's another fellow who's woken up somewhere else. You can always play with them. But then if you're in line with nature, because that's how we were made to function, yes, you find your health is better, your energy level, so many things improve. But there are cycles which are not just that 24 hours, So these biorhythms that we know of are within that 24-hour frame. That, okay, within the 24 hours, there's a certain time to sleep, certain time to wake up, to eat, to be active, to relax. But in Jyotish, they look at many more of these cycles where you say, okay, each day of the week, for example, has a certain energy. They are governed by a certain graha, let's say planet. It's not the ideal translation, but so if say Monday, where does the name come from? It's moon. It's lorded by the moon.
Okay.
So amongst other things, that makes it a great day because those activities are connected to moon for healing, like natural healing. So if you say, I want to take some natural treatments like Ayurveda, I want to go to a spa, Monday is a great day for that because the moon energy will support it. So it will be more effective. It's a great way to network socially. Like if you want to socialize, say in your neighborhood, you want to have a get-together, or it's a great day. While Tuesday is lorded by Mars, by Mangal. That's why we say Mangalvar. So Mars has an energy of fighting. He's a warrior. So if you have to fight, if you have to go to war, Tuesday is the best day. Like without...
So that's the best day for the other person as well.
No. Like it's about your intention.
Okay.
So say you have to fight. Like you have to take someone to court.
Right.
Or then if you do that on a Tuesday, so that will support you, that energy. At the same time, Mars is also responsible for accidents, cuts, burns, that kind of things. It can kill. So that's why they say, if you can, it's better to avoid doing surgeries or that kind of operations on a Tuesday because the risk is a little more. And of course, if you want to do it in detail, you always look at the person's personal chart because maybe in your case, Mars is someone that also really supports you. But as a general rule, this is the case. So if you have to travel, maybe try to avoid Tuesday, just because the chance for accidents may be a little bigger, you know. Nothing to be paranoid about. But again, that's why I said if you have a mantra, then you say, okay, you know, I cannot avoid it. I have to travel today. Okay, I'll sit, I'll make sure I do, especially that day, I'll do my Om Namah Shivaya chanting in the morning before I leave the house. So you have your protection, you know. And the same way, say Guruvar, you know, Thursday, for example, is a great day to start anything new, especially when it comes to knowledge, to learning, because Guru energy. You know? Guru is also the one who resolves conflicts peacefully. So if you have an issue, and if you want to fight it out, say with your spouse or with your neighbor, or then Tuesday is the day to meet. But if you say, no, I want to see if we can resolve this amicably, you know, conflict resolution, then Thursday is a better day, because then Guru will support it. You know? Friday is Venus, Shukravar. So that is a great day if you want to enjoy, you know. It's a great day to do creative things. It's the best day to have a first date, for example, because Shukra supports relationships. Even if you have to get married and they say, oh, we cannot find any good muhurta. You know, weddings here are a big thing. If nothing else works or you have very limited options, then always take Friday. At least there you cannot go wrong. You know? And if you look at it, like if you look at the world, this is the reason that almost everywhere, you know, when new movies are released and things like that, it happens on a Friday. Now, it's not that all these people know Jyotish, but over time they would have seen that if I release a new movie on Friday, it does better.
Yeah.
Sales are better. You know, the tickets go better and it's well received. Why? Because Venus is supporting that. You know, like that way. If you see, and then Saturday, you know, that is Shani's day. It's a great day to clean, to do like that kind of, you know, a little bit more intense labor, things like that. So these are just some small examples, but when you start seeing that, okay, and like you said, with the moon, the phases of the moon, because when full moon is there, moon is connected to the mind. So then your mind is the strongest. It's full, you know, but it goes up and down. So if you have the Amavasya, you know, the new moon, that is when your mind is basically gone. The moon is gone. It's very small. It's very weak.
Correct.
So that's not a good day to make new decisions, of have important meetings or travel, for example, if you can avoid it. You know, sometimes you can't. So then you have the mantra, you can do the remedy. But if you have a choice, so then you start seeing that, okay, what are these rhythms in nature, and how can I go with the current? You know, how can I ride the waves? Because we all know timing is everything. You know, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, if you pick the right time, you can be tremendously successful. If you pick the wrong time, you'll burn, you know. So timing is everything.
So it's an interesting way of thinking about it. It's not like how can I not be affected by the moon cycles, but it is how can I use the moon cycles for my benefit in that sense. So when it's a full moon, this is when I have the most amount of energy.
Yeah.
Maybe
mind is clearest, strongest.
Work on the big projects, etc.
Exactly.
On a no moon night, don't do any of those kinds of things.
Chill out, meditate, you know, take it easy. Yeah, because I see this is intelligence. Like smart people, like when it comes to investors also, what makes someone a good investor? Because they know what's happening in the market. They know, okay, right now this is going up, this is going down, that is risky. So let me put my money here, you know. The same way you may see with your podcast that, okay, this kind of topic, what is the right time to release it? Because most people will benefit. Or, okay, exams are coming up. I have a habit that can really help people study better. Let me do it now. So this is, if you do that, okay, you're good at what you do. That's how you know. The same if you look at life as a whole. So the rishis, the gurus, you know, they have this knowledge and they say, okay, right now, what is required or what is best, or how can we use the resources already available, what nature provides. You know? Like a good farmer knows, if I plant the seeds a little before the rainy season, then after that, I don't have to do much work, because when they need that extra water, the rain is anyway coming, and you'll have a good harvest, good crop, with least amount of effort. Someone who doesn't know farming, they may put the seeds at a different time of the year.
Impatient.
Yeah, or just they don't know. And then that doesn't mean that it will not sprout. But yeah, if you put it after the rainy season, that means you have to put a lot of extra effort to water it every day. You have to get that water from somewhere. If you don't do it, the crop may be much less. You know, so again, no timing and the right soil, of course, that how deep do I put it in the ground, all those things matter. And that is why one of the valuable things of Jyotisha, of astrology, is it's not about predicting the future, but it's about, okay, finding the right time to do something and how to remedy those challenges that are there. That, okay, you know it's going to rain, theek hai, but then when you take an umbrella.
Correct.
You may get a little wet, but you don't get drenched, and at least you know what to expect.
I love that concept because there's no such thing as a bad time. It's just probably a bad time for that particular activity. But do something else at that time. Instead of trying to force fit that activity into that particular time.
Exactly. And then life becomes much easier, much more beautiful.
It's easy. That's why I keep telling people, as soon as you find that you're struggling against something, you're probably doing the thing that is not right at that point of time. Find something that you're probably not struggling with so much, where your excitement is going. Probably that is going to be better for you at that point of way. So I have an interesting question. This is about habits. Okay, many people say that, especially when it comes to spirituality and consciousness, habits are the wrong way of approaching it.
Really? They say that?
They say that because you're removing your consciousness from it, right? You're focusing on all the subconscious aspects. So
okay,
that's why I wanted to understand your perspective on this. And I have a viewpoint as well, which is that the whole idea of habit coaching is making people aware of the things that they were doing subconsciously so they can change it in a more conscious way and continue. What are your thoughts on habits, especially when it comes to the world of spirituality and the stuff that...
Well, like we briefly touched upon, if you look at the whole theory of karma, our past impressions from this life and previous lives, or, the conditioning that we have, the mental conditioning, basically conditioning means these are habits. So somewhere subconsciously, unconsciously, we have been conditioned to like certain things, to not like, to make certain choices. And that is what is, you can say, forming your destiny to some extent. That is limiting your free will, like what we spoke about. So in spirituality, one of the important things is, okay, how do you become free from that conditioning? When we talk about freedom from bondage, that is freedom from conditioning. So you can say it's freedom from the wrong habits.
Right.
And if you look at spiritual practices, like in the Yoga Sutras of Maharishi Patanjali, he very beautifully gives us a sutra to form the right habits, you can say. Because he said that's essential. Abhyasa, which is what the word he uses for spiritual practice. He first defines this, tatra sthitau yatno abhyasa. Abhyasa is that practice of again and again coming back to that state. And there he talks about the state of yoga. You can say the state of equanimity or witness consciousness or, being established in the self, whatever people like to use it, but call it. So again and again what you do to come back in that state, which are your spiritual practices. And that could be anything. It could be your meditation. It could be your mantra chanting. It can be your, contemplating of knowledge or mindfulness, whatever people may be doing. But he said for that to become firmly established, for you to really to achieve that, to be established in that, what you need to do is Satu dirga kala nairantarya satkara sevito dhrida bhumi. It becomes dhrida bhumi, it becomes firmly established when you do it dirga kala, for a longer period of time, not just 1 or 2 days. Nairantarya, without a gap. So not that I'll do it for 2 days, then leave it for 3 days. And so he's talking about habits.
Yes.
He's talking about making it a habit. But then he adds one more ingredient and he says, Satkara sevita. And this is very beautiful, I feel, because if you go to any coach, any trainer, say in the gym, and you say, okay, I want to lose this much weight. I want to gain this much muscle. That first 2 ingredients will be there. He'll say, okay, you have to come, say, for 6 months and 3 times a week, dirga kala nairantarya, longer time without a gap. You do that, in 6 months, you'll achieve this. Or you want to learn how to play the guitar. Teacher will tell you, okay, if you want to play this song by, who knows, Metallica or John Bon Jovi, whatever. To play this, you have to come for 6 months, maybe 2 times a week. For 1 hour, we'll practice. I'll teach you. And then every day at home, you have to practice for half an hour. If you do that, after 6 months, definitely you can play this nicely. But Patanjali says, no, just these 2 are not good enough. You can be meditating every day for 20 years or doing your breathing techniques for 15 years every day, without a gap. But he said one more thing is very important. He says satkara sevita, which means with honor and respect.
With honor and respect. Love it.
Because, especially when we talk about the mind, and habits to a great extent have to do with the mind. Of course, you can have your muscle memory and all of that, but most of it starts from the mind. And he says for the mind to be fully there, this is the easiest way. Because if you see what is honor, my master, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, once very beautifully defined. He said, if you really look at it, honor or respect is a state where your mind is fully present, you're fully with what is right now, with a tinge of gratitude or a little bit of love. Such a beautiful definition. And when I thought about it, I said, yes, this is it. If, say, someone that I really look up to, or that I really appreciate, or that I'm a big fan of, or that I really love is coming to my house, I have that honor and respect. So what I do is I prepare. I clean the house nicely, maybe prepare a nice seat, get some, tasty snacks, get some nice drinks or whatever I want to serve that person. And then when they come, like here in India, people, they even come with a mala, maybe with a garland, or they'll even do aarti, or, they have so many beautiful ways of welcoming people. And then they say, come, please come, sit inside. And you give them a seat. Okay, what can I serve you? Now, your whole attention is there. You don't have to put any effort to focus. It's natural. If you have a neighbor who keeps coming in and out, he's like, family member kind of, you may not even have noticed, is the guy left or is he still here or who knows. If at home you have something that's very dear to you, maybe something that your favorite grandfather had given to you, his personal diary or a necklace, or you have a puja place where you have something that you brought from a faraway monastery or whatever, you keep it with all attention. Even when you clean it or you pick it up, you keep it somewhere, you know exactly what and how. You keep it safe. But if someone asks, where is yesterday's newspaper? I don't know, maybe it's there, or I might have thrown it also. You don't know, because that awareness was not there. So if you do anything, like especially spiritual practices, because you asked about that, now if you do that with honor and respect, what happens is the moment you sit, you say, okay, I'm going to sit for my meditation practice. And you have that honor for maybe yourself, that this is my time, my personal moment, or you have that respect for the technique. This is a mantra or a technique given by my teacher or my guru or some saint or who knows what, then I have that honor for that, or this is something very precious. Or I have a respect for the lineage. Maybe you're initiated in some tradition, some sampradaya, or who knows, or a yoga school that you look up to. So then when you sit with that feeling, without you having to put any effort, your mind is already fully there. While otherwise, I've come across many people who say, yes, I meditate every day. But then when you sit for 20 minutes, most of the time, your mind is planning, what do I do next? Or you're thinking, or you're chanting the mantra, trying to settle the mind. And after 15, 20 minutes, the mind is a little more calm, but you've not really meditated.
Yes.
While if you sit and your mind is fully there, you can actually meditate or really be with the mantra for that time. And that is why, not even just for the spiritual aspect, I would say habits are important, because really practicing any spiritual technique requires you to make it a habit for it to be really successful. And even in normal life, like, the other day I was talking to some people and we spoke about, that how for many youth now it's difficult to focus, like in school or...
Very difficult, yeah.
Yeah, and they say because of whatever, social media, mobile phones, all these things.
Training to focus because it's just so distracting.
But, the thing is, apart from all these social media or distractions or the more information or stimuli or whatever, if you ask me, this is also one important aspect because, and I may sound like a grandpa right now, but, back in the days when people used to go to school, they still had respect for the teachers. They had respect for going to school. Still, if you go to some of these villages, we run a lot of free schools in rural and tribal areas where other schools may not yet be available. And if you see the moment, these kids come to school, for some of them, they realize that it's such a privilege to learn. So when someone gives them a book, they feel, this is something precious because this has knowledge. Earlier, many more people had that. So they would go to school and say, I get to learn.
Right.
people are going through the difficulty, the trouble of teaching me. And then a teacher is there, you had a lot of respect for the teacher. And when that honor and respect is there, that means you don't have to focus because already your attention is there. It's effortless. And now, if you go to school, first of all, the teacher doesn't look like he's enjoying much. He's all because nobody bothers about him. He's not getting any respect or appreciation or even some common decency. So that guy is not inspired. And the people sitting there, the students, they're like, yeah, yaar, I have to sit and listen to this guy. Anyway, if I want to know it, I have ChatGPT, I have Google, I can just look at Wikipedia, whatever. So I don't need this guy. If I want to know it, I'll Google it. So there is no respect. And then obviously it's very difficult to focus. People don't need to focus to watch Netflix. People don't need to focus maybe to watch a cricket match or even to keep up with cricket scores, So things that you love or things that you respect, you don't need to focus because the focus is already there.
It's such a beautiful way of thinking about how to make a change. And that change comes with respecting that action that you're doing or that thought that you're creating in that moment.
For any habit, this is a nice ingredient maybe people can add.
Yeah, I love it. I'm thinking about how to use it in a habit system as well. Lovely. Swamiji, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and chatting. This was a last minute thing, but I'm so happy that we did it. It was fantastic.
Yes,
I can't
also
wait to start my own mantra practice as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you. One thing before we go, how can people connect with you? How can people discover more of the wonderful work that you're putting out?
Well, I do my best to keep up a little bit with my social media. So, of course, people are always welcome to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel that I have not updated as much, but I will get back to putting more new content soon. But also what may be interesting, and of course, people can always drop me a message via my website also. So if they have a question, they can message me there. But also for people who would like to explore maybe the mantras a little bit more. A few years back, I had recorded a few albums with various mantras, and that is available on Spotify, on Apple Music. It's on my YouTube channel. So some of them are Vedic mantras, so it may be difficult to chant, but they're very nice to play and listen to. You can meditate with it, or because they are very powerful mantras.
Is there an explanation for what this mantra is?
There is an intro track which explains what is for what. So yes, they can explore like what is this good for. And of course, for those who haven't had a chance yet, I would love to invite them to check out my book, Looking Inward, Meditating to Survive in a Changing World, because it's a very nice introduction also to what meditation is, how to practice meditation, but also to explore a little more. How does the mind work? How to manage the mind? How to regain your inner peace? And of course, we have beautiful programs through the Art of Living where people can learn more about meditation techniques, breathing techniques, and many more things.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
IVM